Hey there, English class. So it's essay time, and I've got a lot to talk about, so let's start talking. So, you guys have your essay, which is due on Friday, and you are to pick your topic and everything like that. I talked about the topics last video, so I'm just gonna get straight into the business of writing the essay. So let's start with the thesis. The thesis is your answer to the question and the main idea of your essay. It's similar to a topic sentence as you would write in a single paragraph, and the whole point of your essay is to prove it. Right? It should be what the reader thinks after your essay is finished. Right? So that's what the whole idea of the thesis statement is. Right? And it needs to be nice and clear, not too narrow, not too broad. So when it comes to writing your essay, I have to say that your thesis is the most important sentence in the entire thing. If you don't have a good thesis, the essay is going to be a disaster, right? Whereas if you have a good thesis, then the essay will be good. The worst thing that could happen to your essay is for me to read it and think, what is the thesis? So let's talk about what a thesis should look like. Okay. So, I'm going to do a demonstration question here, right? So this is my question only. You guys can't do it. So it's going to be, what was Caro's real objective when she jumped into the water? Was this a result of her immaturity or was it something else? Right? So that's my question, right? So it's about why did Caro jump in the water? So when I make my thesis, I want to make sure it's not too broad and not too narrow, right? So if I were to make my thesis, little girls always want to have attention, right? If that were my thesis, then that would be no good because it would be what we call too broad, right? It's going in too many different directions. Whereas if I made it this, Carol was too young to be given marijuana by Neil, and that had a negative effect on her. That's what we call too narrow, right? So it's focusing too much on one area of the story and not fully answering the question. So instead, what I do for my thesis is I write Caro hated the fact that her mother had ripped her from her comfortable home in order to live with a vagrant like Neil, which led her to create progressively more dangerous stunts in order to get her mother to address her situation. Right? So that's my thesis. It's my answer to the question, right? And what it's trying to do is it's trying to have a clear position and clear answer to the question. It's not being too vague, like if I were to say little girls always want to have attention, and it's not being too narrow either, as with the second sentence here, right? So what my goal is to have a clear position, right? I, at the end of your essay, should think that, right? So when I write this essay, you guys should be thinking this, right? That's, Carol killed herself, or Carol jumped into the water because she was trying to do dangerous stunts due to wanting her mother to get her out of the situation. So, guys, before you do anything else in your essay, the first thing you want to develop is a thesis, right? And if you want to take the time to email me your thesis, right, and say, hey, I want to say this for question number 1, or I want to say this for question number 3, right, I will do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, so that's what I will say for the thesis, right? So step 1 of writing your essay, don't write your essay right away, is just think of your thesis, right, and figure out what is your answer to the question. After that, we go to once you have an thesis, right, what I always recommend students do, and we don't have time for us to really have it so that you guys handed an outline to me first and everything like that. But a really, really, really good idea is to create an outline for your essay, right? What an outline is supposed to be is a plan for your essay, right? And I like to use this thing, which is the skeleton outline, right? I take this from Ryerson University, right? Where you sort of make a little plan for what you're going to do in your essay, right? So at the top, you've got your thesis statement, and then you've got your main ideas and what you're going to say. I have here main idea 1, 2, 3, 4, but you could have 5 or 6 if you want, right? And the way an outline is going to go is it's going to essentially be your plan for the whole essay. So I've got an outline here, right, which I will, by the way, I'll be posting all of this stuff that you see on the screen so that you can look at it carefully, right? So, this is my example outline, right? And what I've got here is first I have the question again, right? That's what I mean by topic. And then I have my thesis, right? Caro hated the fact that her mother had ripped her from her comfortable home in order to live with a vagrant like Neil, which led her to create progressively more dangerous stunts in order to get her mother to address the situation, right? So I've got my thesis right there. And then essentially what I do is I just create my main ideas, right? So in my first body paragraph, I'm going to talk about, well, let's see. Main idea number 1. Carol hates the move to the trailer with a deep passion, right? So that's my main idea number 1 that's going to go in my essay. And I write here, she constantly tells her sibling to remember the old house because she wants to keep those memories alive. She worries for her dog and does not like being in a trailer. She constantly gets into fights with Neil, who she finds to be ignorant. They argue about whether wolves will hibernate. Carl was right, wolves don't hibernate. She is discontent and ready to fight for her old life. So what I'm doing there is I've got my main point, which is that Carol hates the trailer, right? And then underneath it, I lay out what my evidence is for that point, right? And what this does is it gives me my plan for the rest of the essay, right? Because the best essays, I can tell you, are the ones that are well planned, right? You don't want to start to write your essay and then in paragraph 2 or paragraph 3, you're writing and then you think, oh, I should talk about this, right? And maybe I'll talk about this, right? That's what gets you an essay that sort of doesn't make much sense or that sort of jumps around or that doesn't flow very well. So making an outline is a very good step. And you don't have to worry about things like spelling or grammar when you're writing an outline. Outlines are just, well, they're outlines, so you can do point form, right, as you wish. So let's keep going here. Main idea number 2, Carol was already attempting to get her mother to go back to her father before the incident, right? And then I lay out these points in point form, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. About 4 points per paragraph are going to be enough. So this essay is meant to be 1,000 words, right? So that is roughly 2 pages, Times New Roman double space 12 font. So that's 4 pages, right? Which isn't a lot, right? So in terms of the amount of material that you need, right, I would say that this amount would be sufficient to get me a 1,000-word essay, right? It's going to be probably in the end about 5 or 6 paragraphs, depending on how it goes. So for the word count part, right, plan roughly your standard essay and see where you stand at the end. I'll talk more about word count later in the video. But this is the first step, right? The first step is thesis, right? And then the second step is your outline, right? So don't do those 2 things before you actually start your essay. And if you want to email me one of these outlines, right, then you absolutely can, and I can take a look at that and tell you, hey, this is a good point, hey, this is a bad point, right? These are fairly easy to put together, right? So we've got 2 big points here. My 2 big points, by the way, other than my first one, is Carol was attempting to get her mother to go back to her father before the incident. To get her mother to go back to her father before the incident took place, right? So that's my first point there, or my second point, right? And I talk about how she took Blitzy to her father's house and make it look natural, and she wanted her father and mother to talk again, right? So I go through all of my evidence in the outline. So now, if you do a good outline, the hard part is over because the thinking is complete, right? So making a good outline is really key. So do that. But then there's the writing of the actual essay. But okay, let's keep going here. So you've got your thesis, you've got your outline, right? So you followed those 2 steps, right? The next thing you want to do is, well, you want to start writing, right? So that brings us to the actual essay structure. Now, essays have 9 ingredients, right? And we're going to start with the first 3, which is in your intro paragraph. So in your intro paragraph, you've got 3 things that you need to accomplish. You need a hook sentence, you need background sentences, and you need a thesis statement. So your hook sentence is this one right here. So this is me writing that same Caro essay. So what was Carol's real objective when she jumped into the water? Was this a result of her immaturity, or was it something else? So the hook sentence is meant to be your introduction to the topic, right? Essentially, I should be able, in your first sentence, I should be able to tell which question you have chosen, right? But at the same time, you should know that this sentence is not your thesis. So let's see. I have it here. Even highly intelligent children are still children, is my hook sentence there, right? So this is introducing the topic, right, of Caro's immaturity. It's not my thesis, right? And it's just sort of giving the reader an idea of what I am trying to say, right? So that first sentence, the hook sentence, just needs to introduce the topic. And then, well, let's see. In the short story Gravel, oh, wait, I should talk about what that is. So the hook sentence, by the way, is 1 sentence long, right? It's just the first sentence that introduces the topic. After that, you've got what's called background sentences, right? And here is where you will tell the reader just a couple of details about the story that you're writing about. Now, these sentences are very important because the whole point of them is your essay needs to be comprehensible, not just to me, but to anyone, right? So if I were to, take a copy of your essay and forward it to like the principal or to another teacher who has not read Gravel, right? They should be able to tell if it's a good essay or not, right? Without first going to read Gravel. So that's where the background sentences come in, because you want to spend about 3 to 4 sentences talking about the story. You don't want to summarize the whole thing, right? But just give the important details, right? So let's see what I wrote here. In the short story Gravel, written by Alice Munro, Caro is the older sister in a family that is torn apart when the mother leaves her father to go live with a hippie in the forest. In the course of a day, Caro is forced to leave her comfortable house and finds herself living in a trailer in the middle of the woods with her mother's new lover, Neil. Unable to adjust to the situation, Caro tries a series of stunts and gambits to get out of the situation and ultimately drowned herself in the process. While the narrator is unable to figure out why her sister jumped in the water, the true reason is abundantly clear. So, the background sentences are just giving the reader a little bit of information about the topic. Don't summarize the story, just give the important details. Now, the important thing, depending on which of the questions you're doing, right, that is going to shape what your background is going to look like. So if you're doing the question on the mother, right, then your background sentences, they shouldn't be about Caro, they should be about the mother, right? Same thing if you're doing Neil, then, well, the background sentences should be about Neil and his philosophy, not anything else. And if you're doing, the one about the narrator, right, then, well, your background sentences should be about the narrator and her memory and being young and everything like that, right? So which part of the story you focus on depends on your question, right? Mine are all about Caro because the question's about Caro, right? Makes sense, I hope. So you've got hook, right? Introduce the topic. Background, tell the reader a little about the story. And then the last thing you do is the thesis statement, right? Which, if you've been following my steps, you should have done first, right? So the thesis statement is your answer to the question, right? It is the last sentence of your first paragraph. So what I literally do is I go back to my outline, I take whatever sentence I had there, I copy it, and I put it right here, right? Caro jumped into the water because she hated the fact that her mother had ripped her from her comfortable home in order to live with a vagrant like Neil, which led her to create progressively more dangerous stunts in order to get her mother to address the situation, right? So just put your thesis, last sentence of the first paragraph. Let me emphasize this, right? Because if your thesis is not in the right place, then your essay is going to suck. So if I do this, right, if I decide, I'm going to make the essay have the thesis as its own paragraph, then I have ruined my essay. Because the place where I go to look for your thesis is the last sentence of your first paragraph. That's just the rule, right? Maybe in your second or third year of university, you might have a 2-paragraph introduction, right? That's possible. But at this level, the thesis is your last sentence of the first paragraph. That's where I expect to find it, right? And that's where you're going to put it, right? If I do this, right, my thesis is now this, right? While the narrator is unable to figure out why her sister jumped in the water, the true reason is abundantly clear, and that's a terrible thesis, right? So make sure thesis is the last sentence of the first paragraph. Don't put it like that because that's going to ruin your essay. But all right, that's your intro paragraph. It's got 3 ingredients: hook, background, thesis. Bing, bang, boom, done. After your intro paragraph is finished, it's good news because you're now on easy street, right? Or at least you will be if you've made an outline, if you've been following my steps so far. Because after your intro paragraph is done, it's just back to the normal routine, which is to say, body paragraphs, they've got a topic sentence, they've got supporting sentences, and they've got a conclusion. So here I've got my body paragraph, right? It's going to start with a topic sentence, and you want to make sure your topic sentence connects to your thesis, right? So my topic sentence here is Caro hates the trailer with a burning passion, right? That's my topic sentence there, right? And that connects to the fact that, well, just like it says here, she hated the fact that her mother had ripped her from her comfortable home, right? So that connects directly to my thesis, right? It's always good to have these first sentences connecting straight to the thesis. And then I just write my essay, and I'm going to use the ideas I already had from my outline, right? So this is why it's great to write an outline first, right? She constantly tells her siblings to remember the old house because she wants to keep those memories alive. All right, so when I write the essay, I'm going to put her old house was quite comfortable, and she slept in a comfortable bed. While her father was traveling insurance salesman and thus rallying around, she still was giving the family money and keeping them comfortable, with each child having their own home. In contrast, the trailer that their mother brings to them is a dump. Both kids live in one room with cots, and the children are surviving on tin soup. The fact that Caro misses her old life is illustrated by the fact that she is always urging her younger sister to not forget about their old home. Caro is worried about I should put also there, also worried about her dog, who is going wild and is constantly clashing with Neil, who she finds to be both ignorant and annoying. For instance, Neil claims that wolves hibernate, which Caro knows from her school to be completely incorrect. In this situation, Caro is living in poor conditions with a strange and visibly ignorant man who she clearly despises, right? So my body paragraphs, right, I draw from my outline, right? I laid out all of these ideas before, and now because I've got my ideas already in my outline, right, I can really focus on things like my grammar and my spelling and commas and everything like that when I write my body paragraphs, right? So that's the big advantage of making an outline first. So you don't have to make an outline. The outline is not to be handed in, right? You can show me an outline, but I'm not going to be marking it. But it is a good idea, right? Because it will help you enormously. And then, of course, At the end of your body paragraphs, you have a concluding sentence. It is thus completely unsurprising that she would decide to lash out and try to find a way to escape from her circumstances, right? That's my concluding sentence for that paragraph. And I've now got a body paragraph. So you guys know how to write body paragraphs, right? I know that from your reflections. So what you see here is the need to just do that again, right? And make sure each paragraph is supporting your thesis, right? So that is the most important thing there. And you're going to write as many body paragraphs as you need, right? The whole essay is supposed to be about 1,000 words, and you should be aiming for that. So, you guys are going to write around 1,000 words, and again, it can be 5 paragraphs, it can be 6 paragraphs here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post this example essay. I'm not going to go through everything in it in this video, but this is a full essay that I've posted that I will post along with this video so that you can take a look at what a finished essay is supposed to look like, right? But you're going to write, 3 or 4 body paragraphs. You probably can't do more than 4 here in the essay, right? I've got 4 here in this example essay. Let me make that green. And, you just write it as you've written essays in the past, right? You write body paragraphs. 3 or 4 is probably going to take you to 1,000 words. In fact, let's see. The way you check, by the way, in Google Documents, you go to Tools and you go to Word Count, right? Whereas in Microsoft Word, here, let me show you. So in Microsoft Word, it always shows you the word count down at the bottom left, right? When it says 1056 right there at the bottom left, right? You can also go, where is it in this? I don't know, it's right here at the bottom left, right? There's page number and then there's word count right at the bottom left of Microsoft Word. So that's how you can keep an eye on your word count in Microsoft Word, right? So, the whole thing is supposed to be 1,000 words. If you're over or you're under, that's fine. Like if you're at 1,100, that's okay. If you're at 900, that's okay. But if you give me an essay that's like 500 words, that's no good. And if you give me an essay that's 3,000 words, that's no good as well. Again, the whole thing comes out to be about a page or 2 to 4 pages long, right? That's with 12 font, Times New Roman, double spaced. But we've also got to talk about concluding paragraphs, right? So after you've done the whole thing, you've written 3 or 4 body paragraphs, right? You've written your intro, right? All of your body paragraphs has hooks, backgrounds, and theses, right? So you've got all of those things together, right? You've got one last thing to do, and it's the easiest part. It is the concluding paragraph. All right, so the concluding paragraph has 3 ingredients, right? So first, you restate your thesis, right? Caro jumping in the water was a cry for help and an attempt to escape from the conditions of the trailer. That's what I've got there, which is a restatement of my original thesis, right? You should use different words, right? But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward thing, right? Just restate your thesis. And then this next part is very easy if you have done it all properly. Because remember what I said, all of your paragraphs should have a topic sentence. So you're going to write a summary of your essay where you're going to remind the reader of your main points. And if you've done your topic sentences well, right, what you're going to have to do is you're going to just go and say, all right, my first topic sentence, Caro hates the trailer with a burning passion, right? And I've got here, Caro hated the huge downgrade in conditions that came with her being moved to this trailer in the middle of the woods, as well as the new man who is supposed to be acting as her father, right? So I am just basically repeating what's in those topic sentences, right? And I go to each topic sentence and I write a sentence about it, right, in different words. So I go up to my second sentence, which is before the incident, Caro was already attempting to get her mother back to her father, which was a cry for help, right? And that's what I've got here. She attempted to indirectly send a message to her mother about how unhappy she was, but her mother did not properly listen to her, right? So each of my summary sentences are taken directly from my from my body paragraphs, right? So I've got here, ultimate cow jumping in the water was her attempt to prove to the world that they don't belong there, right? So I have here, indeed, the mother only made things worse by getting naked and having sex with. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Sex with Neil while her daughter was present. I should change that a little bit to make it fit a little bit more. But I do talk about that in that paragraph, as you'll see when you read it all on your own time. And then I've got here, tossing the dog into the water and then jumping in after it thus accomplishes two different things in Kara's mind. And then over here, I got the dive into the water was Kara's last attempt to get her mother to see her discontent and resulted in the story's tragedy. So, there shouldn't be any new ideas in your concluding paragraph, right? If you introduce a new idea in your concluding paragraph, the reader will instantly ask the question, well, why didn't you talk about that in your actual essay, right? So you just want to go back to your topic sentences and remind the reader of your main points, right? So the way to think about it is this. I'm going to be reading your essay, and it's a long essay. So let's say something happens, like let's say, for instance, I'm reading your essay, and all of a sudden, this cat jumps on the desk and is like, meow, hey, pay attention to me. Don't pay attention to an essay, right? I'm going to pay attention to this cat for a moment, right? And I'm going to be like, hey, good cat. And then, right, maybe it was on paragraph 3 or paragraph 4 of your essay, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to be reading it. And so the summary, what it will do is it will remind me of your main points, right? So what it will do is it will make it so that I think, oh, right, I remember this point. I remember that point, right? So that if a cat distracts me, right, I still am not going to get lost when I come back, right? So the summary is meant to be a reminder. And then finally, at the end, you have a send off, which is supposed to be one sentence, and it's a concluding sentence for your whole essay, right? So it's a way of sort of telling the reader that you're finished, right? Because you don't want your essay to sort of hit a wall and just stop, right? So what I've got here is Monroe's story is thus a story that shows us a desperate little girl trying to escape from the terrible situation her mother placed her in, right? So a nice, simple conclusion there is what I give you, and that will conclude the essay. So, to review, your essays are meant to have 9 ingredients. You are supposed to have an intro paragraph with a hook, background sentences, and a thesis. Then you are supposed to have body paragraphs, 3 or 4, however many you need in order to get to 1,000 words, topic sentence, supporting sentences, and a conclusion. Then, finally, at the end, you're supposed to have a restated thesis. In your concluding paragraph, you're supposed to have a restated thesis, a summary, and a send off. That is 9 things that you need to have in order to call your essay an essay. And if you've got those 9 things in your gravel essay, you will be fine. Okay, so that is what you need in order to do well in this assignment. So, I will post my demonstration essay, right, along with the outline too, if you guys want to look at the outline, right? So I'm going to post that along with this video so you can take a look at what a completed essay is supposed to look like. So that is going to be posted along with this video. And I will also be there at 2 o'clock today, right, or Thursday, in order to answer your questions about essays. So if you are still unclear about anything, feel free to drop by. Tomorrow's video, I will go through things like quoting. I'll go through things like citation a little bit more. I'm not going to talk too much more about citation. We've talked about that too much already. And I'll talk about things like constructing a good argument, right? But this thing is going to be due on Friday. Some people have already asked me, even today in the seminar, can I come on, can I hand it in on Sunday or whatever it is? Guys, that it is due on Friday. If you give it to me Sunday, I'll still mark it, right? But please, I don't want to have a class, every single person gives it to me on Sunday, and then I have to mark 20 essays overnight, right? It's up until 6 a.m. or something. I don't want to do that. So please hand it in on Friday on time, and think of it this way: I'll be happier with you if you give it to me on Friday, as you very well should. So, with that in mind, I think we can wrap up this video right now. I don't know how long it is, but I think it's going to be pretty long. So, I will leave it there for today, right? And come, please, at 2 o'clock. I know I've sort of been talking fast and throwing a lot of info at you in this video. So, come at 2 o'clock if you have any questions about intro paragraphs, about body paragraphs, about conclusions, or anything like that. So, thanks all much for listening, guys, and I'll see you all next time.